My way, or the highway, and in the driveway is a nice range. Cause I grind through the climb, I invite pain. You'll never hear me, bitch, nah, I don't complain. Just gotta flip the switch and you can go and obtain anything you want, anything you need. Your mind's got the key ingredient, it's belief. They'll deceive with the negativity, but I just slide right by that energy. Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go.
What's going on, Gallop Out crew? Ryan Anderson here, back with Kyle Roscoe from Betting and Boozing over on the HHH Racing podcast. We're joining you on In the Money Media to go over Stephen Foster preview day out at Churchill Downs. We're covering 3 of the graded stakes going on. We're going to cover the Grade 2 Shawnee going as race number 6. We're going to cover race number 10. That is the Blame Stakes. That is the kind of the Stephen Foster prep. And then we're going to go to race number 11 because we're with Arlington Park, the Roscoe kid. So we got to cover the Arlington Stakes. It's not the Arlington Million, but it is the Arlington Stakes. So we got to cover that. Kyle, how you doing today?
I don't even know what the Arlington Million is anymore. I've never heard of that race after 2021, but
the Arlington Million through Colonial at Churchill Downs.
Fantastic. Just what I like to hear. God, that makes me sick. Anyway, what's up? How you doing? Basically, I don't know who Jackson is anymore. Happy to take over for the man again. But this is actually a really good sequence at Churchill. All joking aside, there's 6 stakes races. We're covering 3 of them. And again, 4 of them are turf routes. So that, again, with Penn Mile Day all being turf routes, this is turf routes. I'm going to candy score this weekend.
Absolutely. Turf routes are the king of those. Yeah, we do have Penn Mile Day. Thank you for reminding me. Good time to plug this. Tomorrow, Thursday, I'll be on ABR Live. We got a Penn Mile preview show going down. So it's good. That is certainly not slipped my mind, but it is a busy week out here. I got jury duty tomorrow. So, as long as I don't get selected to a jury, we're out here live on the ABR airwaves. That's going to be a fun one. I think it's Alexa Zepp, Dan Torgman, and some others. So we get to go through Penn Mile Day. But Kyle, you and I get the chance to go through Stephen Foster Day Stephen Foster Preview Day, I should say, out at Churchill Downs. Weather looks good, but we're not weathermen out here. We are handicappers. So without further ado, we're just going to get right into it. Race number 6 kicks off the pick 6 sequence. That is all graded stakes if you decide to take part. But we're going to be covering the mile and a 16th Shawnee to kick things off. 4-year-olds and upwards. It's the fillies and the mares. Purse of $300,000. Of course, mile and a 16th on the main track. We're giving you top picks and our top long shot. So TP is obviously top pick. LS, obviously the long shot. So we're going to start it off, Kyle, with you. You're going to go to the number 4, Majestic Oops. First time in the barn for Phil D'Amato, West Coast trainer, but you're going to trust him out in Kentucky. First time in the barn.
Yeah, I mean, and this was most likely a private purchase from at Oaklawn Park, as D'Amato had a nice string down there for the winter. It's a very interesting move, but I think Majestic Oops is honestly really good. And obviously D'Amato and the connection still believe in this horse at 6 years old. She was 3rd behind Claret Beret, Rest Her Soul, and Nitrogen the last time out, but won the Azeri. I just think this race sets up really well for her. Jinjin, I've really never been the biggest fan of her. She's going to go to the lead. Then you have the 5 Splendora, who was awful. I don't know what the heck happened with that horse last time. And then your horse, Immersive, is going to be near the lead or on the lead as well. So lots of speed in here. Looks to set up very well for Majestic Oops. And the thing I like about her is she has the tactical speed. She can sit a little bit closer than a couple other horses in here. Maybe like Too Much Kiki, the number 6 that's coming in here, or Take Charge Omaha. Just being able to sit in that mid-pack range might just be the key to victory here.
I agree, and not a private purchase out of the last, but was rather part of that dispersal because Dan Ward assistant trainer to Bob Baffert, which I had to go look into as well because I kept forgetting that he's going to give away all of his horses. So this obviously, I think, kind of the mainstay in that barn. This was the star of his stable. So obviously now in very capable hands for Phil D'Amato. I wonder if maybe after this race, if they stay out in Churchill Downs, or this looks like a prime candidate for a race like the Clement L. Hirsch. But I certainly respect the likes of Majestic Oops, can certainly be tactical, and you'd have to think with the Breeders' Cup distaff being at Keeneland this fall, that maybe staying out in Kentucky is the path to victory there. I certainly don't hate it. Obviously, my top pick, I ended up going to the outside in Immersive. The boys in blue, it's Brad Cox and Irad Ortiz. They're teaming up. Last time, came back in the grade 3 distaff up at Aqueduct and ran fine. I get that, failed as odds on, and I think the question's still there. Has she taken a step forward into her 4-year-old season now after being really lightly raced in her 3-year-old campaign? Has she even taken a step up from being 2 when she was all the rage after winning the Breeders' Cup Juvenile filly? She was considered, the top filly in that barn above Good Cheer, who obviously was the Oaks winner. Obviously, maybe they spoke in a little bit of hyperbole there, but she still never missed the exacta. So she's always run a relatively strong race. Her worst was obviously in the CCA Oaks, but Scottish Lassie just kind of put everybody else in a body bag that day. So I do think 2 turns, Churchill Downs, that seems to be where she's at her best. I think that 87 in the comeback effort when she faced Olders for the first time, I thought that was an encouraging effort. I think 2 turns makes a ton of sense, obviously, for her. And I do think that's where she's going to ultimately be best, as she kind of just ran in place around there in a 4-horse field where Grammy Girl was able to get the job done that day. But I think that was playing Grammy Girl's game. 2 turns at Churchill, much more in the bag of Immersive. As you can see, she's also 3 for 4 at the distance. So 7-2, I would be very happy to take that on her. If she's one of those that, gets hammered and we're looking at 8-5, 9-5, I'm probably just going to have to sit out the race, maybe play a little bit on my long shot in here. But before we get to mine, we're going to get to yours. Miss Justify, post position 3, coming out of the La Troyenne on a softer pace, but Shred the Gnar, fully subscribed. Those are 2 very good horses. Add in Bless the Broken. And that's a very capable top 3 that she was beaten by first off the bench.
Yeah, and the thing that I like about her is even though she's been near the lead the last couple of races, she has the ability to sit. And that's the big thing, again, with my top pick, Majestic Oops, trying to find these horses that have tactical speed but don't necessarily need the lead. Miss Justify is very capable at Churchill. She's won twice over the surface, 2 for 3. The only loss she had was in the aforementioned La Troyenne, which you brought up. Again, I just don't know if that's her game, and maybe she's just not up to the snuff of Shred the Gnar, fully subscribed. Well, I really don't think this field is nearly as good as that one. Mentioned Splendora ran the Derby City Distaff last time. She hasn't been the best going 2 turns. Immersive, like you mentioned, hasn't taken that step up, is capable for sure, but I would rather see it first rather than bet her at 2-1. So if Miss Justify is going to have that same type of run Majestic Oops, I think she has the capability to be as good as someone like Majestic Oops. However, maybe just not to the top level. But Brendan Walsh, Gaffleon, we know how dangerous that combo is. Just think she sits a really good trip and has at least a little bit of a chance to run into the exacta or trifecta.
I think so as well, and I think the board is going to tell a big tale. As you can look through her past performances, her odds have kind of always told the story. When she's those lower odds, she typically tends to be live. She's won at 7-1 before. You're hoping probably for something along the lines of that, if not, the 10 to 12-1 that we see on the morning line. Certainly a competitive race. I would say last time she seemed to just accidentally find herself on the lead. Yeah. I think they were going so slow early that, she was up on the lead. Shred the Gnar sat such a nice trip. Turning for home, it's a tough place to re-rally from if you're down on the rail, whether the rail is good or bad at Churchill Downs. To re-rally from inside of a horse when you have the rail, you're not breathing that clean air like that horse to the outside is. So that's tough and can certainly right the trip from last time. Last horse we'll talk about before we move on is Splendora, your 6-5 morning line favorite. Look, we know what she is, right? She's a 100-buyer top horse. If she is on her game, on her day, this field, she's going to bury this field. But that's a big question. She hasn't gone this long in quite some time. Looking back to April of 2025 in the Santa Maria, she didn't win that race. Richie won that race, another Bob Baffert trained horse. Won pretty convincingly that day by over 4 lengths. So I don't know that necessarily this is her prime distance. I think, you got to stretch her out. You got to try her again. Obviously, Bob Baffert has a Kentucky string now with Dan Ward being the assistant trainer out there who we just spoke about. So you obviously have to give this one a look. Comes back out of the Derby City Distaff, where Usha, who finished 3rd, did just come back out to win this past weekend. That was a sprint effort. So I just think this horse is going to take way too much money. And I think if you're trying to play against her, this is absolutely the spot to do it. So I'm happy we are all in agreement there. Race number 6, we'll wrap it up one more time. I'm going with the top pick, the number 7 Immersive Long Shot. Oh, I guess I should talk about that horse before we move on. The number 2, Take Charge Omaha, who Little light on the speed figures, but the one thing I do like is that she's capable of closing into some slow paces, and I do think she might get maybe a little bit of a hotter pace in here, or at least has the potential to. And that's kind of the only reason I would use her. She has a couple wins over the Churchill surface. She has a couple wins at the distance as well, so she clearly likes it here. This is her preferred distance. She has to take a step up on the speed figures, but these older fillies and mares, we see a lot of inconsistency. We can see these horses just all collectively decide to run their B- race. And if Take Charge Omaha runs her B- race, that might put her, right in the mix in terms of the speed figures. Or if Take Charge Omaha shows up and everybody else runs their B- race is what I should say, because I do think her A+ is everybody else's kind of B-. But
I was going to say that, but I was going to let you finish first.
Yeah, tripped over my own words. But if she gets back to those efforts, she is capable. She's just one that I would probably use underneath in some vertical plays as well, very lightly. But I did think she had an outside chance to hit the board, third start off the bench. So now wrapping up race number 6, the Shawnee Stakes. I'm going 7-2-7 as my top pick. Immersive, the number 2, Take Charge Omaha is the long shot. Kyle going with number 4, Majestic Oops as his top pick, and the number 3, Miss Justify as his long shot. We'll skip ahead to race number 10. Race number 10 is the Blame Stakes. They're going a mile and an eighth. It is the Stephen Foster prep race for the big race coming up in about, 4 to 5 weeks. My top pick and long shot are going to be the same horse because I ultimately just kind of kept coming back to one. My top pick was 10-1, so I figured that's a viable long shot as well to have. Kyle, your top pick to the number 8, and we do share the same opinion on the 4 of a horse that can have a big shot. That is Capital Idea. But first, we're going to go out to the number 8, Vibe, who I certainly respect off the backs of those efforts. You're going to trust this one for Todd Pletcher. Louis Saez switching off Lasix for this event, but certainly running back to that last effort makes him a big threat in here.
Yeah, and this is not normally a horse I usually go for. I mean, there's this whole field is filled with just the tried and tested older, dirt male group. Probably minus Saudi Crown if you had to throw one in there, but he just something's gone on. The light bulbs finally turned on for this $3 million purchase. And granted, I know it was an optional 25 and an optional 80, but those last 2 efforts I feel like are probably good enough in this race, especially if he continues on the improvement, which third off the layoff at 4 years old with that kind of light bulb angle. It just screams to me like this horse might be willing to run a big one somewhere in the low 100s. And that would absolutely be enough. Not only that, there's pretty much no speed in this race at all. He's really the only one that wants to be forward. Hall of Fame's been a little forward, but he always runs better with a target in front of him. Rattle and Roll, that horse might be 20 lengths back as usual. Hit Show, shown a little bit more tactical speed, but definitely likes to run with the target. I think the only horse that's probably going to be near the 8 is Capital Idea, which is honestly why I like him as the long shot. And you could argue, why not play him at 10-1 rather than 9-5? I probably would never play Vibe as a win bet. However, when you play him with Capital Idea underneath, or maybe you play a weighted exacta box where you level the 8/4 much higher than the 4/8, some kind of play like that. But just with the light bulb angle and the pace angle, I think Vibe is a really, really big true threat. Nothing creative, but I feel like this might just be the coming out party for the number 8 Vibe.
It very well could be. Whether it's a switch to the Todd Pletcher barn, whether it's the blinkers on, something has made this horse really click in his last 3 as he's won each of those by open lengths, 2 of them in dominating fashion, including on Derby Day or Derby weekend, winning the optional claiming race that went, I think it's race number 2 that day. Just absolutely demolished the field. That was very good. You had Houday, you had Bullard.
I was going to say, it's not like he beat some, random field on optional 80. I mean, you have Prater in there. You have Houday in there, who's also in this
John
race.
Hancock, you had Attaché, you had Key Waden, you had Arrow Smash, Comport. These are all horses that we've heard a lot about. And maybe, not all of them are on their A game, and Vibe is maybe that up-and-coming horse. But he beat a classy group of older horses, and he did it very convincingly. You don't win, there's not many 14-horse fields where you can win by open lengths. You daylighted a good group of 13 others in there. So I'm with you that Vibe, I do think, is the most likely winner. But he does have a couple questions to answer. Yep. And for that reason, I want to go with Capital Idea. And you have this horse as your long shot. And you mentioned the top point that I think this is the horse that's going to be sitting second. So if Vibe is turning for home, who I do expect to be in front, and he realizes that without that L in his name, he can't, quite get to the bottom of himself, then I think Capital ID is going to be the one that punches that ticket first and gets the jump on everybody else. I don't think he's the best horse in the field or even the best closer, but I do think he's going to have the jump on horses that are going to be coming from well out of it. I would expect Hit Show to be farther behind. Rattle and Roll, as you mentioned, he might get lapped by this field with how far back he likes to come from. But Capital Idea, I do think, is the one that I want going 2 turns. That seems to be where his best efforts as of late have come. You look to the efforts towards the end of last year in the 2 optional claiming events at Keeneland and Churchill Downs. He ran really strongly in both of those. I think it allows him to kind of emphasize that late turn of foot. And even 2 back in the Ghost Zapper at Gulfstream Park when he ran second behind Grande. Grande kind of had everything his own way that day. He was 1-9 in that. I mean, he wasn't going to, lose that race, but Capital Idea ran really well and he tried the entire way. And it looked for a second like he might even come back on him, but Grande, he's a little too classy for this field. And I think we see Grande in a couple weeks, Belmont Stakes weekend. But Capital Idea, to me, makes the most amount of sense. Junior Alvarado, though, a little bit chilly.
Yeah.
Hope Paul Halloran's not watching the show, but Junior, a little bit chilly up in the saddle right now, but he can switch that around anytime at any given point.
And the thing I like most about Capital Idea really is you go through the PPs. He's definitely run his best around the 2 turns. You see a lot of 1-turn miles. You see, the 1.5 turn mile with the Wilson shoot, I guess. I don't know what you call it, honestly, but the weird configuration 1 mile stuff. But you look back, that Ghost Zapper at Gulfstream, he ran really well, as you mentioned. Then you go back to last year on the Kentucky circuit at optional and 100,000 optionals between Keeneland and Churchill. Those are probably his best races on the page, even though he does have a 99 over the Wilson shoot. 2 turns is probably his game. He's won on Churchill before. He's going to be close to the pace. And again, like I mentioned, he's going to be probably 5 times the price that Vibe is. So win bet wise, the thing that you need to recognize a lot of the time is, even though your best pick is, the horse that you think is going to win, it's not necessarily the best bet in the race. I think if there is a best bet in the race, it is Capital Idea, trying to, again, take advantage of the pace scenario, while even though he might not be the best horse in the race, he might just get the biggest benefit on the day.
Absolutely correct there. As we're checking in with the chat, I threw up a comment from Jackson Muniz. So clearly he's paying attention to the show, but he can't be bothered to join us, I guess. So that is what it is. We got Chris Couples. We got Skippy in the chat. I think I do these live shows without telling him, just so he can't troll me. If only that was the case. It was just not scheduled until very last minute, and I was in traffic getting home. So, I'll let you know next time, Chris. I'll be sure to give you the schedule so you can clear everything. But it seems that you made it in time anyway. We'll wrap up the Blame Stakes going as race number 10, 9 furlongs on the main track. Top pick and top long shot for me is the number 4 Capital Idea. He said he's literally walking out the door, but he's joined the show's handicapping from his car before, so I don't see that as a viable excuse. And Kyle, top pick to the number 8 in Vibe, who I do think is a very likely winner, and top long shot as well to the number 4 Capital Idea. And now we get to the races Kyle loves most. It's race number 11. It's a turf route. They're going 1 mile and a 16th, 4-year-olds and upward. Grade 3 Arlington Stakes. Kyle, let's go through it. My top pick is to the number 3. My top long shot to the 10. Your long shot is the 1 West Hollywood, but your top pick, you're going to kick us off here to the outside. It's Cherie and Brilliant Birdie. Go for it.
I just think he's really good, man. I know, and last time out, these last 2 starts have been iffy for him, and that's always a concern when a horse comes back off the layoff. But man, does this horse love Churchill? And the race sets up for him really well. There's a couple other, not really speed balls in here. I think the biggest interesting entrant is the one just to the outside of Brilliant Birdie in Coal Battle, which that's a very interesting spot there for Lonnie Briley and Corey Lannery. But that horse has some speed in there, which I think will give some others a little bit of trouble. Macero went to the lead last time, although I don't think that's his game. Kind of just inherited it that day. Mercante is quick off the block. Minaret Station hasn't been too slow in a lot of other starts, but I'm kind of dancing around the idea of the number 9 Quattrocento, who's a massive speed ball, trying to look for a little bit of speed in here. But the thing I like most about Brilliant Birdie is kind of like Laganos, where he has that ability to sit a little bit closer. He kind of do both, right? He has the big, deep closing kick, but also, especially at his best races at Churchill, being just losing to Mercante in this race last year, he has the ability to sit very close and has the ability to win going away by open lengths. Hasn't been seen since, or hasn't seen the winner circle since Churchill last year. So I hope third time off the layoff at 5, getting back to his favorite track and getting what looks to be a pretty good trip in here with Cherie, who's been winning with horses very well as she brings back her monster turf starters. Brian Hernandez has always been in the saddle for him. I really, really like Brilliant Birdie in this spot. Probably one of my best opinions on the whole day.
I love it. I mean, obviously, this horse loves Churchill Downs. 5 for 6, getting the picture taken, and 1 second place. So clearly, this is the track for this horse. Runs very strong, and obviously can be more forwardly placed should the pace not be as fast. Ran in this race last year to a good second, but found himself on the lead that day. So he can certainly lay close, and he's so consistent. He just always kind of shows up, and he's coming in off the back of 292 buyers. Go ahead.
And the big thing is that, it started out at the fairgrounds at 1 1/8 miles, probably a little too far than what he wants to do. And the mile last time against very good horses, maybe just a little too short for what he wants. I think the mile in the 16th is also just the distance that hits him in between the eyes.
Yeah, look, I might be in the minority for the Maker's Mark mile. It is an absolute, I think the horses out of that race have come back a lot stronger. Obviously, Rhetorical dominated Derby weekend. Notable Speech came back 2 weeks ago, dominated. That race, just a bit of a headache. That was one of those where, I'm willing to just look at that as everybody's just going to come out of that and run a better race, because Zulu Kingdom found himself on the front end. That's not typically where we've ever seen him. And then just all sorts of weird trips in behind. So it's one of those races where obviously I think it was a bit of a head scratcher in terms of how it was run. Brilliant Birdie can certainly take a big step forward out of that, as we've seen from the likes of Rhetorical and Notable Speech. Obviously, I think the pace question here, and if I'm handicapping for my co-host Jackson Muniz, he'd end up on this horse probably with the reasoning of, this horse looks absolutely loose in here. And I'm not really going to disagree with that, because Quattrocento, I think, does get loose on the lead. But he was loose last time, and he didn't quite get the job done. And he seemed to really thrive down in Southern California for sure, or Southern Florida, even up at Tampa, with back-to-back stakes wins there. Outside of that, though, he's kind of struggled. He does have a win at Kentucky Downs, 2 wins, I should say, at Kentucky Downs, obviously in optional claiming company. But I don't know, even though he's loose in here, I do think that there are some stronger horses. And I went back to the horse that beat him last time, and that's the number 3 Laganos, who prior to the fairgrounds race on February the 14th, was one of those horses that would occasionally get the job done, but so often would find himself second and third. I don't know if this was a 5-year-old light bulb angle or what the deal was, but he has found the winner circle in 3 straight races. It's like he remembered how to win again, and I'm going to ride the hot hand. He's coming in off the back of 3 of his strongest performances on the page outside of the race at Kentucky Downs, where he ran a 104. But those 3 coming on normal turf courses, 2 at the fairgrounds and last time out at Churchill Downs, I think all 3 of those are very, very strong in here. He should be tactically placed, and he's run down a loose leader before, which I like to see in Laganos. So checking in with the chat, because I assume Jackson said, yep, Jackson picking Lungsby, Kyle picking Cherie, Ryan picking it all is right in the world. That's fantastic. Jackson, it feels like we need to have a side bet for our typical dollar. You can take Quattrocento, I'll take Laganos, and Kyle can take Brilliant Birdie, and we'll keep things moving right along. Look, I like this horse, and he's not one that I've ever taken in his last 3, but he's proved me wrong in his last 3. So I'm hopping aboard the train, and I do think 5-2 is a reasonable price in a field like this where he seems to be going the best out of everybody. So that'll be my top pick in here. Kyle, we will go to you for the top long shot, West Hollywood. Irad and Brad, team up.
I've been a very big fan of this horse for a long time. Not necessarily by Charlie Freeman standards, where I bet the horse back and won, which I have bet the horse plenty of times before, including that race off the bench at Fairgrounds where he won at 6-1. That was a good one for me that day. However, I just feel like he's kind of one of those horses that hasn't been able to show that how good he really is. He's kind of been a little ouchy. He's kind of been, I don't know, like he's, he finished in Saranac, then didn't run until April, ran twice in April, and then hasn't been seen since March of this year. So little ouchy, but when he comes on his best day, he shows how good he can be. Ran the opening verse last time, was a little bit farther back, I think, than what he likes to be during the game or during his game. Only lost by 2 to that type of field too. Very willingly down the stretch. I feel like if he gets a little bit closer as to what his normal running style is, I feel like he can also continue to improve third off the layoff at 5 up to the 100 buyer. I think he's right in it with a lot of others, and what's going to be, 3-4 times the price as a lot of the other main contenders in here.
I agree. You get Irad Ortiz as well, first time aboard here, and
that's the problem.
It could be, but this is a very wide open field. I think there's a lot of horses that are going to take money. I don't think you'll get I don't know if you'll get 10-1, but I could see 8, 7 easily. I would say I think the money's got to be spread around. Brilliant Birdies is going to take money. Quattrocento just on the speed is going to take money. Obviously, Laganos is going to take money. Even Coal Battle I could see taking a little money in there. His numbers have been pretty strong, and he could be a little bit sneaky in here. But West Hollywood, I was with you on the Fairgrounds debut for the 5-year-old season. I took him that day in a wide open race and did not have him last time, but he did take a step forward. And it seems like he's kind of had that consistency to him, which we haven't been able to see. So West Hollywood, certainly a viable long shot. You got to love the rail draw as well. Going to be able to save plenty of ground, tip out, and close. One of the last ones we'll talk about, my long shot, number 6, Minaret Station, who this horse has a great turn of foot late, has a great closing ability in that opening verse stakes where we see a lot of those common runners coming out, Laganos, Quattrocento, Minaret Station, and West Hollywood, along with Giacosa, who we haven't talked about. But Minaret Station closed the fastest out of all those. He closed in 22 and change. I think 22.5 was the final closing time for that cord. And he was wide a little bit in that trip. So obviously, I'd hope that we can see him maybe a little bit closer. He's been, he obviously is a deep closer, but you've seen him lie close on some of those slower paces. So hopefully he can get that kind of tactical trip. I just want to see him save a little bit of ground for Will Walden, who I believe that is rule number 4 in our book, Kyle, that Will Walden doesn't lose. And I mean, so far he's only 43% at Churchill Downs for his 14 starters. So Minaret Station in here. This is a horse that I really like. Seemed to really take a big step forward in his 4-year-old season. And I think with the right kind of ride, obviously Christian Torres has got to get off the goose egg here, but I do think he can. He gave a good ride on Minaret Station last time. He just maybe lost a little bit too much ground to some better horses. If he can work out a bit of a better trip, obviously he goes from the rail out to post position 6. So that's not the most confident I've ever felt, but I do think he's a very live long shot. And I don't think he's going to be taking a whole lot of money in the win end with how many competitive horses are in here, how much that money has to be spread out. Chris Couples in here. I do wonder if Quattrocento did not have to let Mibago go and make that backside move to get the lead. If he would not had just a bit extra late to hold off Laganos and chasing the crown, that's a very valid point that Chris Couples makes there. Obviously no Mibago to worry about in here. Quattrocento should have things all his way. But Minaret Station, for me, second off the bench, if he can take another step forward, he's going to be very, very dangerous in here. Kyle, I know you got to get out of here in a little bit. You're catching flights, having fun for the weekend I forget where you're going, but wherever it is, it'll be a good time, I'm sure. But this sequence at Churchill Downs is a competitive one. It's a fun one. I know whatever you're doing this weekend, it's going to involve sneaking away to watch some races, to bet on a couple races. As you're pounding some Miller Lights, I'm sure.
Oh, well, we're going up for a wedding, so the Miller Lights will definitely be there, let me tell you. But yeah, I mean, like I said, 8 total turf route stakes this weekend. I am very excited, to say the least. But yeah, the wedding's on Friday, so Penn Mile Day might be the time there. However, then Saturday leaves it wide open for this card, and it's a really fantastic one. If you guys haven't gotten a chance to look at it yet, could not recommend it more. Again, not only with the turf routes, but again, the Stephen Foster blame that we talked about, the Aristides also is in the middle of there. Just lots of competitive racing, not a whole lot of big favorites, which can lead to some nice payouts. So good luck to you, however you guys play.
Absolutely. Good luck to everybody. Safe travels to you. Safe travels to my co-host, my typical co-host, Jackson Muniz. and my fill-in co-host, Kyle Roscoe. I hope both of y'all get to your destinations well. Jackson, going to New York City. As Conor McGregor said, I'm the king of New York City. So hopefully he continues that reign on. But for Kyle Roscoe, I'm Ryan Anderson. Thank you guys for watching this episode of the Gallop Out for Stephen Foster Preview Day. We'll see you here for the next one.